Hey everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, and class is very much in session. It's time to take a look at the Raw after the Royal Rumble from Portland, Oregon. And well, before I started watching the show, I was like, this looks pretty stacked. There could be some good stuff here. Stephanie's invited Becky to town. Kurt Angle's got an announcement to make. And we'll see what it was like, because Raw didn't go exactly how I thought it would in my mind. But maybe it was alright? There's only one way to find out, and that's by taking a look at every segment and assigning it a lovely grade. That's right, this is WWE Monday Night Raw Graded. So we open the show with the classic Monday Night Raw opening. That's right, a talking promo segment with a McMahon family member. That's the classic, that is Raw 101. That's what you want, note that down. That's textbook Monday Night Raw opening. Stephanie came out to open the show, and because it's a McMahon opening the show, they have to do what a McMahon does every time they open the show, and that's, you know, sing it along with me. Welcome to Monday Night Raw! And everyone's like, ooh. But then, just as Stephanie was about to introduce Becky Lynch, Becky's music cut her off, and she came out anyway, still limping, still selling that leg from the Rumble. Now, first of all, and I was pleased to see this, because the fear I had when this segment began was that Stephanie was going to do to Becky what she's done to so many superstars in the past, and just bury them and sort of take away their momentum. And even though, you know, often the other superstars maybe stood up to Stephanie a little bit, in the end, by the end of the promo, she always seems, usually, to be on top, to have the upper hand. But this time, she actually took a different track. She was putting Becky over. She was saying, look, I've never seen someone stand in front of Ronda Rousey and smile at her. And I thought, Sasha Banks might have done, and that was only a few weeks ago. But we'll ignore that, we'll ignore it. In fact, come to think of it, last year, during Ronda's first, storyline in the WWE, in the run-up to WrestleMania, didn't Stephanie stand in front of her and smile? Quite a lot. Quite a lot. Let's ignore that too, let's move on, let's ignore it, let's keep going. Stephanie keeps on, they recap the storyline essentially up until this point. They recap what happened at the Royal Rumble, but instead of doing it through dialogue with their words like humans, instead Stephanie keeps on going, let's take a look back at what happened if we just all look at the Titantron. And I was thinking, what's going on? It was a little bit robotic. Found it a little bit strange, and for a while I was thinking, this promo segment's really going nowhere. But then obviously it all changed. Stephanie says that Becky needs to go to the doctor to get her leg checked out so that she can compete in the main event of WrestleMania. Becky goes, I don't want to see a doctor, and I think the implication is that Becky fears that if she's not cleared because of the leg, then she won't be allowed to compete in the main event of WrestleMania. So the motives all make sense. Stephanie obviously wants her biggest star, Becky, in the main event of WrestleMania and wants to make sure that she's fit for it. But at the same time, I think there is this sort of undertone of Stephanie being a heel. Maybe later on it'll be revealed that actually she doesn't want Becky in the main event. I get it to a degree. I honestly didn't think they'd go the injury angle with this. I thought they'd maybe go something along the lines of Becky wasn't an official entrant in the Rumble. She seems to have suffered no real repercussions for not actually being an official entrant. I thought that was going to be the window for WWE to maybe, if they wanted to, shove Charlotte into the match as well as Becky, but there's been no mention of Charlotte yet, and it just seems to be all about this injury, which I found quite strange. But anyway, the explosive end of the promo was, of course, as I'm sure you've seen on Twitter or whatever, Stephanie goes, look, if you don't go to the doctor, I'm going to have to suspend you. And Becky goes, don't say that, because I won't be responsible for my actions if you do say that again. Stephanie says it again. She says, right, as of now, you're suspended. And Becky just goes, and just punches Stephanie McMahon in the face. Obviously everyone pops huge. She gets on top of her, raining down right hands. Security comes out and agents and stuff. They pull Becky off. They get Stephanie to the back, and then Becky gingerly walks to the back, but without any help from anyone else. So interesting stuff. There's also then a little bit of afters backstage where Becky runs into Ronda Rousey, and Rousey essentially has a go at Becky for being unprofessional because she wants to face her at WrestleMania. She says that Becky's being unprofessional, especially beating up Stephanie McMahon. Again, didn't Ronda do exactly the same thing last year when... Let's ignore it. Let's ignore that. In fairness, I can't remember if Ronda actually did lay hands on Stephanie before the match, but regardless, this gets a B+. I know a lot of people would probably want it to get an A or an A- or something in the A bracket because of the sheer excitement of seeing Becky just punch Stephanie in the face. And obviously, that was a huge moment. It was reminiscent of Stone Cold and Vince, obviously back in the Attitude Era. But there were some problems with this that I'm going to mention right now. First of all, I don't want to really see a promo segment featuring Becky Lynch, one of the most charismatic stars in all of wrestling right now, and for her to do the less of the talking, for the other person to do more of the talking. That was a little bit frustrating. Becky kept on having stuff to say, but then Stephanie would be like, well, let's take a look at the Tron and see what happened. And just let Becky cut promos. She's insane right now. She's so on form, both in the ring, but also especially on the microphone. The second problem I have as well is the whole injury angle. As I said, I don't really understand what this achieves. And underneath all of that, my main problem is, why does a McMahon always have to be involved in the main event of WrestleMania? Not always, but often, so often a McMahon has to be involved. I thought this would have worked absolutely fine if they just kept it as a Becky and Ronda program, and Charlotte if they want to as well, all the way up to Mania. They don't need an authority figure to be too heavily involved. That's why this only gets a B+ for me, even though it was obviously a very exciting moment. Next up, Ronda comes out and has 2 matches, but I'm just going to include them in the same little segment here because they were very short. So Ronda comes out, she's got a match against Liv Morgan of the Riot Squad, who gets the jobber entrance. Unfortunately, Liv, you know that it's going to be bad for someone when the camera doesn't see them coming down the ramp. It just cuts to them in the ring chatting with their tag team partners and stuff, having a great time, and you just think you're about to get absolutely taken apart. Now, as short as this match was, I actually really enjoyed Liv Morgan in this. She was infuriating Ronda, rolling underneath her attacks, like taunting her and stuff. Thought that was really good. Liv Morgan's so good at that, a very natural heel. But at the same time, Ronda eventually caught her and just punched her in the stomach. A lot of punches in the first hour of Monday Night Raw. And then she slapped on the armbar. Liv Morgan tapped out, of course. And then Ronda grabbed the mic and cut a slightly garbled promo. She was like, "Oh, you sit in your seats and boo me? Sarah Logan, get in this ring right now." And I was like, oh, this is an interesting and bold decision. Sarah Logan gets in the ring. Thankfully, their match lasts a little bit longer. If she'd also been squashed, I would have been a little bit annoyed. It was essentially still a squash, but it was an entertaining one, and Sarah Logan did put up a little bit more of a fight, which makes sense because she's, you know, the powerhouse of the Riot Squad. So eventually, though, she did get caught in the armbar, and she also tapped out. 2 wins for Ronda in very quick succession. I'm going to give this a B-. I don't like seeing Logan and Morgan get absolutely... Logan and Morgan... I don't like seeing Sarah and Liv getting absolutely destroyed, but at the same time, they're my picks as well to win the Elimination Chamber Tag Team Championship thing. But at the same time, if anyone's allowed to look really strong and dominant right now, it's Ronda Rousey, the champion, heading into WrestleMania. So I do understand it. That's why I get a B-. I also enjoyed the little interaction as well with Ruby Riott on the apron after the match, where Ruby went, "Maybe I'll have a go as well." No, I'm not going to have a go as well. So from a pair of average matches, which sort of worked well in storyline, to a better match that just meant nothing. So which one's better? You can't really balance that up, can you? This was a 4-team tag team match featuring the Revival, the Lucha House Party, only 2 of them, it's all right, no more Lucha House rules, the B team, and the newer team of Heavy Machinery. First of all, as it was revealed last night, Heavy Machinery are now just called Otis and Tucker. They don't have their surnames anymore, because obviously you're only allowed a surname if you're in NXT, or if you had one before the NXT era, like Randy Orton. As much as I'd love to see him just called Randall, he's just called Randy Orton. Randall would be fantastic. Young Randall. This was a decent tag team match, to be fair, in terms of action. Obviously, no one got too much of a chance to shine because there were too many bodies in the ring, but the Lucha lads did some good Lucha stuff. Heavy Machinery got a bit of a chance to shine as well, especially Otis, just Otis, who did the caterpillar thing. You know, that was fun. That was a fun moment. But eventually, the right team won. The Revival won with the Shatter Machine. And I'm going to give it a B- because it probably on balance deserves a little bit more than a B-. It was a pretty entertaining little sprint of a match, but at the same time, it meant nothing. Like, yes, it establishes the Revival as still the sort of #1 contendership team to Bobby Roode and Chad Gable's tag team titles, but wasn't it reported recently that WWE had apparently told their tag team divisions that there was going to be a refocus on tag team action, as many people thought, to maybe combat AEW's very outspoken promise to really focus on tag team wrestling as an important part of their promotion. So WWE looked like they were going to try and do the same. If they are going to try and do the same, I don't think this is the way to really do it. Do I just lump in all your tag teams into one match and then just having one team win, and not much more is said about it for the rest of the show? So that's why it gets a B-, despite probably being a little bit of a better match than that in hindsight. Next up, Kurt Angle comes out to make his announcement. Just before he comes out, we get a lovely shot of him walking down the corridor and everyone's showing him respect, like you do in the biz when one of your elders is walking down. So Mickie James comes over, gives him a hug. I think it was Apollo Crews comes along, asks him for some advice and stuff. And Angle basically is like, yeah, cool, yep, cool. And I totally relate to Apollo Crews. The amount of times working on a wrestling promotion where I had to shake hands with everyone backstage, and if I wanted to chat to someone, you can't talk to someone. It's a hive of handshakes when everyone arrives at the venue. And if you need to relay information or maybe ask advice, obviously I wasn't asking wrestling advice, but if you need to do that, you just can't grab a hold of anyone for a little while. It's like a beehive of activity, of handshakes. And it's all friendly and stuff, but it's one of those weird tradition things in the biz. Even if you've seen them the day before. How you doing? I was in the bar with you last night. Angle gets to the ring and cuts his promo, and it's pretty heavy stuff. He says all through his career, and he names some of his great moments, the milk truck, the match with Michaels at WrestleMania, and he says, you know, all through that time, he abided by his 3 I's, you know, his old catchphrase, intelligence, integrity, and what was the intelligence, integrity, and intensity. But now he says they've turned into the 3 D's, which are doubt, defeats, and depression. It was pretty heavy stuff, to be fair. Angle then brings up his recent defeats to Baron Corbin and Drew McIntyre and says, you know, I wanted to prove that I could still do this, but I don't know if I can. Then he starts a new sentence. It sounds like he's about to retire, and then he gets cut off by big banter Baron Corbin. Corbin comes out and says, you've basically done this speech before at the Hall of Fame 2 years ago when you were inducted. And I was like, oh, God, yeah. That's a very good point, actually. Then Drew McIntyre arrives because him and Corbin are now like buddies again. It's frustrating, but they head down to the ring. I want to see Drew in a higher position. They head down to the ring, they encircle the ring, they look like they're about to beat up Kurt Angle, and then Braun comes out. That's not what the start of his theme music sounds like, just me going, Braun, yeah, go on, Braun. Braun comes out and saves the day, and the heels run into the crowd. Can you spot the problem with this? No, it's not Baron Corbin running into the crowd. We know that Baron Corbin can act cowardly from time to time. It's not that at all. It's Drew McIntyre running away. They've built up Drew as a badass for the past few months, like such a badass, and he takes one look at Braun Strowman and goes, whoa, he's a big boy. Best get out of here, get me into that front row. And he's gone. And I was just like, have the last few months meant nothing? So I'm going to give this segment a D, and it sounds harsh, but it feels like the stories of all 4 guys have gotten less important as we've entered the road to WrestleMania. Maybe with the exception of Corbin. If he's sort of tangled up in a rivalry with Kurt Angle, that's really good for Baron Corbin. That's only going to elevate his career. But for the other 3, it's really a step down from where they were, especially Drew McIntyre, who many people were picking to win the Royal Rumble. Strowman, of course, had that match with Lesnar that just got canned. And Angle, I think, probably deserves more of a showcase at WrestleMania. There's still time for that, obviously. But at the minute, it doesn't look good for all these 3 guys. And the segment was infuriating as well when Drew ran away. So I can only give this a D. Sounds harsh, but I just didn't enjoy it. Next up, Sasha and Bayley against Alicia Fox and Nikki Cross. Not too certain about that tag team pairing. Not too certain about them working together that well. But, you know, we'll see how it goes. The pair of them jumped Sasha Banks and Bayley during their entrance, really beat them down. And this was obviously to disguise the fact that Sasha Banks was injured recently. So it helps her, you know, stay out of the majority of the action, and she can still appear on the show, but recover at the same time. Smart move. I didn't have any complaints with that really, because they worked the match around it and it all made sense. So the vast majority of this match is just the 2 heels beating down Bayley, taking turns stopping her from making the tag, that sort of thing. Eventually, they've got her on the outside. Nikki runs over to do some kind of like splash onto Bayley into the ring post. Bayley gets pulled out of the way by Sasha, who's recovered in the nick of time. Quite an exciting moment. Nikki hits the ring post. Bayley rolls back in the ring, goes to make the tag. Alicia Fox is like, no, no, no. And then obviously Bayley rolls up Alicia Fox and picks up the victory. Sasha and Bayley progress to the Elimination Chamber, where I think they're going to turn on each other finally and have that match at WrestleMania. Let me dream. Let a boy dream. I'm going to give this, what do I give this? I'm going to give it a C, because it was a clever way to work around the injury. And even though it didn't make for a very exciting match, I appreciated them still finding a way to get Sasha on the show and still getting her to look intelligent and quite strong. That was cool. The downside for me, though, is that the action as a result kind of suffered. It was just mainly a handicap match. And also at the same time, I don't think it was a good idea at all to turn Nikki Cross heel so soon, because have you seen the send-off she got from NXT? She was so over, and she was so over as a babyface. Next up, it's him, it's that D.O. double Jim. It's Road Dogg. Out he comes to introduce Jeff Jarrett, and they sing With My Baby Tonight again. And this time Road Dogg doesn't forget the words, and he says, I didn't forget the words this time. And it's just so karaoke at a wedding, drunk. Are they going to do this for many more weeks? So then we get Elias coming out to cut them off. Finally, Elias gets to cut off someone else's song. What a heartwarming moment for Elias. He basically says, why are you here, Road Dogg? Shouldn't you be on SmackDown sorting out the ratings or whatever? I was like, oh, that's a good point, actually. Him and Jarrett have a match. You can tell that Jarrett has great fundamentals, and even though he's not as athletic as he was in his youth, he still knows how to wrestle a match. He's really still got it. He's one of like the wrestlers where, you know, when there's a you've still got a chant and you think, do they? Jarrett fully does. He does still have it. But the right result happens. You know, it's not the best match in the world, but Elias wins after twice knocking Road Dogg off the apron. Road Dogg takes some... I know he's older as well. Takes some weird bumps off the apron, man. Weird bumps. And then Elias has won. He wins with the drift away clean. And then, you know, the babyfaces get back in the ring and take revenge. Because we need Road Dogg and Jeff Jarrett to get their heat back, don't we? And in the end, Jeff Jarrett hits him with his guitar, and the guitar doesn't even break. I'm going to give this a D+ because even though the match was fine, everything around the match was annoying. The song, the fact that Elias was the one getting beaten down, the fact the guitar didn't break, Road Dogg. Let's move on. Next up, Finn Balor comes out injured but stubborn. He wants to compete still, very brave of him, very noble. A bit like Becky Lynch, really. What are they trying to say about the Irish? I guess it's the fighting spirit and all that sort of thing. He is met by Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush. Rush cuts a promo, which we've seen a million times before. The promo, which is, you're small, Bobby Lashley's big, that means he's going to beat you in a wrestling match. So we get Finn versus Lio Rush, actually. Good to see Lio Rush have a match on Raw, because he is exciting to watch. And it's a fresh matchup, but the problem is, I would have loved to have seen this match if it was just a straight singles match as part of a tournament or something. Instead, we have Bobby Lashley occasionally getting involved, or jumping Finn before the bell, or grabbing his feet when he tries to run the ropes. And then we've got, you know, Finn having to constantly sell his injury as well, so they couldn't really cut loose as much as I'd have wanted them to. Still a decent match. Finn picks up the victory. I'm going to give it a B- because it was good and it was a fresh matchup, but it wasn't quite what it could have been. Still, Finn gets the win, and I think that was probably the right call. Next up, Paige comes out to basically shill her movie. I don't really know what grade to... I'm not going to give it a grade because it was simply just an advert for Fighting With My Family. Good to see Paige back, but it made me a little bit sad, actually. I was like, you know, she used to be a wrestler and her career just got cut short so quickly. It was actually quite sad to see, but it was good to see her on the show, and I guess I'm excited for the film as well. Oh my god, next. We have a moment of bliss, which is getting a bit porny, really. So Alexa, you know, introduces her guest. It's EC3. EC3 comes out, you know, all just jacked, sits down, and Alexa is just slobbering all over him. She's like, oh my god, EC3, where are you gonna go, Raw, SmackDown? And I'm like, I don't think it was a good idea, because Alexa's whole thing has been that she only does that if she's trying to manipulate someone. And I don't think, if it turns out later on that she was somehow manipulating EC3, then I'll eat my words. But this was weird. Like, Alexa doesn't do that. She doesn't do that. She did it with Strowman a bit in the Mixed Match Challenge, but that was like genuine, like, sort of sweetness. It wasn't like she was manipulating him. This was all weird, flirty Alexa, and it doesn't suit her, man. She needs to be on top, not giving a crap about all these guys. So EC3's about to reveal whether he's going to Raw or SmackDown, and he's cut off by Nia Jax and Tamina. Nia comes out, she cuts a heel promo. It's not a worse promo, to be fair, especially when she goes, maybe I should replace Becky Lynch in the main event of WrestleMania. And I was like, yes, that's the sort of Nia that I want to see. Just fully heel, no remorse for what she's done to Becky. Like that bit. Then things got even weirder, because then Dean Ambrose came out and he's a face again, sort of. But not really, but sort of. What is going on with Dean Ambrose? Ambrose mocks EC3, keeps on going like, oh, who are you, new kid? And keep on like pulling the mic away when EC3's about to talk. And in the end, EC3 just goes, crack, just knocks him down on the ramp. Alexa's in her chair going like, oh my god, as if she's never seen a wrestler punch another wrestler before. She's a wrestler. Ambrose and EC3 then have a shockingly quick match, which EC3 wins with a jackknife roll through. And it's just sad watching Ambrose now. It's just sad. I'm going to give this segment a D. Good to see EC3 getting built up slightly. So this saved it from like an E or an F. But at the same time, it's genuinely getting uncomfortable to watch them bury Ambrose now. Like, this is his punishment for saying that he wants to leave and stuff. And it's just like, what are they going to have him do next? Like, I don't even want to think. I don't even want to think about it. It's just quite a shame. And finally, the main event of the evening. And this is when I realized, wow, Seth Rollins' injury really hurt this show. We needed him at some point to add a bit of a spark to the card, especially after Becky couldn't wrestle because of her injury, kayfabe, and all the rest of it. But Wow, Rollins was absent, so we got the main event of Angle and Strowman versus Drew and Corbin, a continuation of the Angle that we saw midway through the show. And this just reminded me so much of Baron Corbin's tenure as the GM of Monday Night Raw, when every show seemed to end with a tag team match like this, and I was just like, we've gone back in time, I thought we were on the road to WrestleMania, and you've just yanked me from the road to WrestleMania, and you've plonked me back in sort of November, December. Despicable. So the finish of the match as well is really infuriating. For the most part, it's standard TV main event tag team stuff, where the faces get the upper hand, the heels get the upper hand, the faces make their comeback. General wrestling's going on in the ring. And then the ending just took me completely by surprise, and not really in a good way. I think it was McIntyre runs in the ring, breaks up a pinfall attempt from Kurt Angle, so Strowman gets in and just lays out Drew. So Corbin gets up and goes, "You can't do that to me, otherwise you're disqualified, mate." And Strowman goes, "All right," just throws him out the ring after hitting him a few times, and the referee goes, "That's a DQ. That's a DQ." Despite every tag team match featuring something like this, which you'd see let go 99 times out of 100, they decided to throw this match out, the main event of Raw, and it all leads to a big brawl after the match. So the heels get the upper hand. They look to slam Kurt Angle on the steel steps. The steps seem to be their weapon of choice recently. So Drew and Baron get the steps in the ring. They're about to slam Angle onto them. Strowman comes back in, saves the day, and slams both of those guys onto the steel steps. And him and Angle are like, "Yes, we have won the day. This episode of Monday Night Raw belongs to Kurt Angle and Braun Strowman." And I was just like, this gets a D, because I'm not interested in this storyline at all. I feel like Angle deserves something better on the road to WrestleMania. I feel like Drew deserves something better as well. Strowman and Corbin deserve something. They all deserve something better than this. So it gets a D. I should mention as well, before I forget, that before the match we got another one of those Mojo Rawley segments where he's looking in the mirror and going, "Oh, something's gonna happen." And I'm just waiting for him to bring back the NWO, because it's really similar to when Vince did that back in like 2002. Can't bloody wait. Overall, this Raw was an infuriating one. After a really strong start as well with Becky Lynch and Stephanie, I can only give it a D+, because there was too much weird stuff. Ambrose, EC3 and Alexa being weird. There was the whole main event thing, which felt like a step back in time 2 months or so. There was Drew running away from Strowman. There was some good action here and there, but even the good action didn't feel like it meant much, like Balor and Lio Rush, or the big tag match that the Revival won. Bit of a nothing Raw, and I thought that things would start to really pick up on the road to WrestleMania, but we still do have time. We do have time. Will it improve next week? I guess you'll have to join me to find out next week on Graded. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Thank you very much for watching this video. You can follow me on Twitter if you want to, at @JackTheJobber. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic. Check out our Patreon as well, patreon.com/Cultaholic. And never forget, of course, if you haven't done so already, to hit subscribe and to join us.